Thank you, friend. Shabbat Shalom. It's always good to see you. It's wonderful to see you, actually. And I'm really happy to have seen how many of you wanted to keep receiving these little weekly updates. It was great to hear from people who I haven't heard from in a while, just letting me know they actually listen or watch and still like the show. Thank you, friends. I almost felt like Sally Field when she made that unforgettable Oscar speech, but I actually know that you do like me. I think I can speak for our entire community when I say that we join the entire Jewish people and decent people everywhere in mourning the senseless murder of the 3 Israeli teenagers kidnapped last month. Naftali Frankel, Gilad Sha'ar, and Ayal Yefrach. There are no words to describe this devastating loss of 3 young lives. Achenu kol Beit Yisrael. The entire house of Israel everywhere mourns the loss of these children. May God offer comfort and consolation to the families and mourners everywhere. To our Canadian friends, happy Canada Day. And to our American friends, happy 4th of July. And folks, America's celebration of independence also marks the completion of our friend Bob's 40-day journey through the wilderness on his highway to health. It was a great and powerful journey, and Bob, although these are the journeys we must take by ourselves, we were with you every step of the way. Congratulations, Bob. Never one to be kept down or to take his time. Bob did a year a day and now has to get ready for a Simcha in September. And for those who didn't know, and a reminder to those who did, the word Simcha is a Hebrew word which means gladness. All the best, Bob. We wish you all the gladness possible. And as the great Ray Davies of the Kinks sang, come dancing, come on sister, have yourself a ball. Don't be afraid to come dancing. It's only natural. And you and Cindy, please have a dance for me under that harvest moon. And tell your friend Steve that his backup musician was pretty good. Friends, this week's Parsha is fascinating, simply fascinating, and I know you've heard me say that before. I'd venture to say, though, that this is truly the only episode of its kind in the entire Tanakh, and the only other episode which may even come remotely close was at the beginning. There you go, man. Keep as cool as you can. Face piles and piles of trials with smiles. During that most famous enticement of Eve by the serpentine creature. This, my friends, is the comic relief of the Torah, and it is so necessary. Our lives are filled with drama, tragedy, romance, adventure, but above all, often the moments that we cherish and remember the most are the ones filled with humor. We recognize the importance of humor in life and in the people we call our friends. And so how can the book of how we govern our lives contain none? It can't. And by interjecting a parsha of humor, a greater sense of humanity is imparted to the Torah. There are many who believe there should be no humor in the Bible. They feel that humor is contrary to the dignity of the book. Humor is part of our life. And it may be that perhaps it's not that they value the Bible too much, but that they value humor too little. But this is special comedy, friends. This is the comedy of Aristophanes and Shakespeare, full of irony and lessons. Something familiar, something peculiar, something for everyone. A comedy tonight. This, my friends, is Balak. And one of the things I want you to look at is the language. And look at the words in this parsha, friends. They are so essential here. And I think too many of the translations fall flat in capturing the essence of this parsha. I'm not asking you to learn biblical Hebrew. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever studied. But I want you to understand how important the words we use are, and how they change the meaning, and how they convey meaning, and how they can be used. Balak is a Moabite king who sends for Balaam, a diviner, a seer, who was brought in to curse the Israelites. He was a gunslinger of spells. Now, Balaam happens to be the earliest person mentioned in the Bible who has also been found in an archaeological source, and that excites people because it gives credence to the stories, it gives credence to the characters. But this episode was so consternating to our sages that they deemed it one of the 10 items preordained at creation. This, my friends, is the tale of the talking donkey. Now, the Hebrew word for donkey is aton, which is also the meaning of the word ass, which is another way of saying donkey, but with a slightly different inference. Friends, when I think of a talking donkey, I think of Eddie Murphy in Shrek. And somehow, donkey doesn't quite convey the meaning or nuance that the slang we all know conveys. This is the story of a talking ass. And I would guess that with over 7 billion people in the world, we all know far more talking asses than donkeys. And perhaps Gary Oldman could attest to that. But the real connection to see in this parsha, however, is to Abraham's blessing by God in Genesis 12:3. And I'll bless those who bless you, and those who affront you, I'll curse. Balaam is called to curse the Israelites, but instead, he gives a parallel blessing to Abraham when he says in Numbers 24:9, those who bless you, he's blessed. And those who curse you, he's cursed. And friends, this is not the only parallel to Abraham which you'll notice. There's also the transportation, the angelic encounter, the fear of being killed while Sarah lives, all woven through this comic tale. Old situations, new complications, nothing portentous or polite. Tragedy tomorrow, comedy tonight. The setup for Balak to want Balaam to come and curse the Israelites is also a parallel. A parallel to the wording used describing Israel in Egypt. Words like numerous. Phrases like covering the eye of the land. So that Moab, that is Balak, felt a disgust. Friends, these are the same words, phrases, and terms which were used to describe the locust plague. And it's based on Balak's perception. Very interesting concept for humans. We take the very existence of someone who is different or strong as a threat. Balak tells Balaam to go and execrate it for me. He doesn't say them. He says it, the swarm that covers the eye of the land. A dehumanizing expression. And what happens? God tells Balaam not to go. And Balaam tells Balak's agents that he won't go. Not even for a house full of silver and gold, because I wouldn't be able to go against the mouth of Adonai, my God. You see, friends, God wasn't just our God, even though that's what Adonai means, our God, our Lord actually. He wasn't just the God of the Israelites. Many people believed in him. The Torah begins with the story of the connection between God and all the earth. And this is a reminder that God speaks to many. We believe in inclusivity, and you'll notice from my webpage that that is very important. Friends, the Torah emphasized inclusivity also. One law for alien and native. And the entry to the tribe was not conversion, as it is now, but Passover. And here we have God talking to a non-Hebrew, which still puzzles many and upsets many. You see, unfortunately, tradition paints a slightly different picture. Our sages also perceived things, and tradition perceives Balaam as a wicked, greedy, cast any spell for a buck kind of guy who hates the Israelites and loves the wealth which Balak promised him. But like the belief that Esau stood for evil and negativity, there is nothing written here to support that view. Everything written points to someone who can't go against the mouth of Adonai as God. I read this and I see another believer in Adonai as God, which further demonstrates that God is not associated with race, culture, or religion. He is the God to all. When Balaam does finally agree to go, it has nothing to do with the wealth. It's because God tells him to go. And friends, he tells Balak he will say only the words that God tells him to say. And that is exactly what he does every time Balak tries to get him to curse. He blesses. And another of the great enigmas in the Torah takes place because as soon as he goes, God sends an angel to block the path. God says go, but when he goes, God gets pissed. And God's anger flared because he was going. And the angel of Adonai stood up in the road as an adversary to him. And he was riding on his ass, and his 2 boys were with him. This is another of the Abraham parallels. The story parallels the Akedah, the reading that we do on the High Holy Days, the binding of Isaac. When Abraham takes an ass, 2 servant boys, and encounters an angel. I like to read this part. And the ass saw the Lord's messenger stationed in the road, his sword unsheathed in his hand, and the ass swerved from the road and went into the field. Then Balaam struck the ass to steer her back to the road, and the Lord's messenger stood in the footpath through the vineyards, fenced on one side and a fence on the other side. And the ass saw the Lord's messenger and was pressed against the wall, and pressed Balaam's leg against the wall. And once more he struck her. And the Lord's messenger crossed over and stood in a narrow place, in which there was no way to swerve right or left. And the ass saw the Lord's messenger and crouched down under Balaam. And Balaam's wrath flared, and he struck the ass with the stick. And the Lord opened the ass's mouth, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" This, my friends, is what the rabbis determined was preordained at creation: a talking animal. God then uncovers Balaam's eyes, and so Balaam now sees the angel. And you may want to ask yourselves if there is anything covering your eyes, my friends. The ass sees the Lord's messenger, while the professional seer remains blind to the divine emissary until his eyes are unveiled. The angel says he'd have killed Balaam and kept the ass alive, and his words are a virtual quote of what Abraham said about himself and Sarah when he said, "They will kill me, while you they will let live." Friends, these 3 incidents, this crescendo of 3 repetitions like Goldilocks and the 3 bears, with the reveal coming in the final episode, demonstrates a fantastic progressive constriction. Road to footpath, to a way so narrow there is no room to move. Man and beast inexorably caught in God's design, with the thematic keywords being ra'o and sure, to see and to gaze, with the crux of this fable being that God decides destiny. Man has no independent power to curse or to bless. Friends, this episode shows considerable satirical brilliance. They can't write this stuff anymore. It's some of the most beautiful of all biblical poetry. Every time, from every angle that Balaam is taken to see the Israelites, he blesses them, my friends. But we focus on the talking ass. We've always had an affinity for talking animals. Who doesn't remember the original Dr. Dolittle? If we could talk to the animals, learn their languages, think of all the things we could discuss. If we could walk with the animals, talk with the animals, grunt and squeak and squawk with the animals, and they could squeak and squawk and speak and talk to us. Talking animals are anthropomorphic, and we love anthropomorphism. It's like a sugar rush to the ego. We all remember and love and got great entertainment from Francis the Talking Mule. And then on TV, Mr. Ed, the horse who was smarter than his owner. Our first exposure to genius, the great Mr. Peabody from Moose and Squirrel Show. And every time, the animal was usually smarter than the human. It was great, but not in the Bible. It's too dignified. Well, friends, something for everyone. A comedy tonight. Every fairy tale has a moral. Even fractured fairy tales had morals. And the moral or lesson here is that God keeps his promises. His promise to Abraham is reiterated on the journey to the promised land. Even when experts are brought in to do something else, they can't overcome what was written. It seems the songs we're singing are all about tomorrow, tunes of promises you can't keep. God keeps his promises, friends, and it doesn't matter who dislikes you or even hates you. They have no power over you. Your destiny was written. How you get there is up to you. Once again, congratulations, Bob, and staying in a Ray Davies way, don't forget to dance. No, 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 don't forget to smile. Don't forget to dance. No, 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 forget it for a while. Bless you all for joining me, and I hope to see you again next week. Please tell your friends to join us. And there are going to be some special shows loaded in the next couple of weeks. I'll be loading the workshop on grief, in which I'll go through the various phases and how to deal with them. And then we're doing another special on how to have your own little meaningful Shabbat service. So that anytime you're on the road or you just feel like having one, I'm going to teach you how to have a nice, simple little Shabbat service that brings meaning back into your life, okay? Thank you once again. Blessings to you all. Gugu Gajub. Shabbat Shalom. And I look forward to seeing you. Take care.